I've been sitting in the Penn State Library microfilm room for 6 hours, going through USDA produce bulletins, and I need to tell you what I found. What I found in the United States Standards for Grades of Watermelons, effective September 20th, 2021, changes everything you think you know about picking a sweet watermelon. The number is 8. 8 sits there quietly. 8 hides in technical language. 8 never appears on the handwritten sign above the bin. Not at the supermarket. Not at the big box store. Not in the summer ad. If you miss that number, you miss the whole story. You think sweetness is random. You think thumping is superstition. You think the old men at roadside tables were guessing. They were not. I kept turning pages. I kept seeing the same pattern. Exterior first. Appearance first. Shipping first. Taste later. Maybe, if specified. That is why you keep bringing home beautiful melons that taste like cold rainwater. That is why the Amish way still works. That is why a cream yellow field spot can tell you more in 3 seconds than a glossy produce display tells you all season. Here is the promise. By the end of this, you will know how to walk past the legal minimum and find the melon that actually finished its work on the vine. You will know why 11 to 12 degrees Brix tastes different from 8. And yes, this works even if you live in a city. Stay with me. Because what I found in Lancaster County uses the same physics Egyptians used to carry sweet water through brutal heat 3,500 years ago. Here's what the evidence shows, and here's why nobody was supposed to find it. A watermelon is not a banana. That is the first mistake. The University of Maryland, College Park, put it plainly in a 2025 extension bulletin. Watermelons are non-climacteric. Once you cut them from the vine, they do not keep ripening. The sugar does not keep climbing, the sweetness does not arrive later. It stops there. That is why the old signs matter. The field spot turns from pale white to yellow. The nearest tendril dries and browns. The rind loses shine. The sound drops from sharp to dull. Penn State Extension repeats the same markers. So does USDA Consumer Guidance. Yellow spot, heavy feel, dull finish. None of that is folklore. It is plant physiology. Think of it like charging a battery. While the melon stays attached, sugars keep moving into the flesh. Cut the wire too early, and the charge freezes where it is. It never catches up. Never. In produce science, the equivalent performance metric is soluble solids. You know it as Brix. The USDA marketable minimum is 8 degrees Brix. Texas A&M AgriLife says 10 is standard and 11 to 12 means extra sweet. So your real coefficient of performance is simple. One fully mature harvest decision gives you 11 to 12 units of sweetness versus 8 in a merely marketable melon. That gap is the whole game. And that gap represents a massive market in produce volume, display turnover, cut fruit, and summer contracts every year. The U.S. watermelon category alone reached an estimated $2.7 billion in fresh purchases in 2024, and that is why you have never heard of this. I learned that in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I stood beside a wooden produce table in East Hempfield Township on a hot July afternoon. The air smelled like dust, hay, and cut rind. I did not hear compressors. I did not hear fans. I heard wagon tires, flies, and one knife striking a board. I picked up 3 melons. Each looked good. Only one felt finished. It sat lower in my hands. The rind was duller. The field spot was the color of old butter. Eli looked over, touched the belly with one finger, and told me not to waste my money on the shiny one. He did not tap first. He checked the ground mark first. That family had used the same method for 4 generations. The language around it came with people who moved out of the Palatinate and Alsace, then into Pennsylvania in the early 18th century. The habit stayed because it kept working. That knowledge never disappeared. It was filed away, it was waiting, and the paper trail is there. Pennsylvania Agricultural Extension records for Lancaster County begin noting farm practices and seasonal handling in 1913. The archive is real, so is the memory. Go back farther, and the pattern gets older than America. Clemson Extension notes that cultivated watermelons appear in Egypt 3,500 to 4,000 years ago, with seeds, leaves, and painted evidence in tombs, including Tutankhamun's. A DNA sample from an ancient leaf showed sweet flesh and lycopene. That means red sweetness mattered long before any grocery chain told you what quality looked like. Then follow the trade routes east. Clemson traces watermelon into China by the 10th century. Follow them west, and Greek and Roman physicians are already writing about the fruit for cooling and relief. Different climates, different languages, same observation. A melon has to finish before you cut it. In hot places, people learned to read surface signs because the inside could not be negotiated with later. The Egyptians did not read this in a textbook. They figured it out the way all real knowledge gets discovered, by paying attention to what the plant was already doing. Every civilization that mastered extreme heat arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate to Pennsylvania about 300 years ago and kept building it into daily habit, because it worked, and because they never needed anyone's permission to do what made sense. Now for the part that should make you angry. The turn came when sweetness stopped being the only thing that mattered. In 1940, Frederick McKinley Jones secured the transport refrigeration patent that changed long-haul food movement. Then in 1954, USDA breeder Charles Frederick Andrus released Charleston Gray, a watermelon built to handle long-distance shipping with little damage. The protected product was not sweetness, it was survivability. A fully ripe local melon threatened freight schedules, shrink control, and every margin built on distance. The mechanism was dull. That is how these things usually happen, not with a dramatic ban, with paperwork, with categories, with standards. In the USDA grade language still in force after the 2021 revision, internal quality is optional. Optional. The document says 10% soluble solids is very good internal quality, and 8% is good internal quality, but only if that internal quality is specified in connection with the grade. If not, appearance carries the load. Read that again in plain English. A melon can look right, stack right, ship right, and still never be judged by the very thing you are buying it for, sweetness. That is how useful knowledge gets pushed aside. Nobody told you. Not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you summer convenience in plastic wrap. In this case, not your grocer, not your produce buyer, not the ad writer who promised freshness with a photograph. The allies were easy to spot once I stopped looking for cartoon villains. Government wrote the market language through USDA standards and breeding programs. Trade press celebrated the shipping triumph. The Charlotte Observer called the post-war outcome a more prosperous South, a better-fed North. Industry groups later institutionalized promotion through the National Watermelon Promotion Board, created in 1989 to expand markets, not to teach you how to reject an underripe melon. Same table, same incentives. The result was simple. An entire field of knowledge disappeared from everyday buying habits, agricultural common sense, and practical food education. Not because it failed, because appearance, consistency, and distance paid better. And the continuation is still happening. In 2021, USDA revised the watermelon standards and kept internal sweetness optional. In 2022, the International Fresh Produce Association reported $330,000 in federal lobbying through open secrets tracking. The National Watermelon Promotion Board still funds promotion through per hundredweight assessments. Money keeps flowing towards selling more fruit, moving more volume, and standardizing more displays. Not toward teaching you how to refuse a bad melon. The watermelon category in America reached an estimated $2.7 billion in fresh purchases in 2024. Every truly informed choice is one bland melon that never gets sold on appearance alone. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people with land, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to buy equipment. You need 2 good eyes, a free hand, and 10 minutes. Start where the Amish start. Do not start with the thump. Start with the belly. Turn the melon over and look for a field spot that runs roughly 3 to 5 inches wide and shows a deep cream yellow, not chalk white. Then check the rind. You want a dull skin, not a waxy shine. If the melon is oblong, look for one in the 18 to 24 pound range. If it is round, 16 to 20 pounds usually keeps you in the sweet spot for hand-picked market fruit. Now move to the stem end. If you are buying from a farm stand with stems attached, inspect the tendril within 1 inch of the fruit stem. It should be dry, brown, and curled tight. Green means unfinished. Next, run your palm over the webbing and sugar scars. You want tan webbing spread across 4 to 8 inches of rind, not a perfectly polished shell. Scars mean time. Time means sugar. If you buy directly from growers, carry a simple kit once, and you will never guess again. I keep a 6-inch stainless ruler, a muslin cotton towel, a pocket LED flashlight, and a 0 to 32 degree handheld refractometer in a canvas tote. Add a small stainless paring knife and 2 nitrile gloves if the seller offers a cut sample. The whole kit costs $38 to $79. The refractometer is the only real spend. The ruler usually runs $7 to $14. The towel is $6 to $11. The knife is $9 to $18. Here is how you use it. Ask for the smallest plug possible from a sample melon in the same bin. 1 3/4 inch core is enough. Put 1 drop on the prism. If it reads 10.5 or higher, stay interested. If it reads 11 to 12, buy with confidence. Then go back to the unopened fruit and match the visual signals. After 2 weekends, your eye learns faster than any label. Weight matters too. For its size, a ripe melon feels heavier because watermelon is about 92% water. On a 95-degree day, that method will usually land you a melon with crisp flesh, deep color, and sweetness in the 11-degree range, not the legal minimum. That difference is not subtle. It is the difference between juice that finishes clean and flesh that tastes like cucumber. One warning: the white field spot is not optional. A shiny white-bellied melon causes flat flavor because the sugar loading stopped too soon in the field. Leave it there. When you get it home, cool it properly. Penn State recommends removing field heat and bringing harvested fruit toward 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit for best shelf life and taste. Do not shock it with freezing air. Do not cut it warm and judge it early. Give it a few hours. This requires attention once a season if you calibrate the refractometer and keep the prism clean. Your bad guess habit costs $8 to $14 every time, and one family can waste $32 to $56 a month in summer on bland fruit. This kit costs $38 to $79 total. It lasts 10 to 15 years. Your choice. Everything I've covered across this channel: root cellar cooling, vinegar wash laundry, lime pantry storage, I've put it all in one place. Step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order the families actually use it. Link is in the description. But stay here, because what Eli showed me is the part nobody is talking about yet. If you're the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. Not for me, for what comes next. Because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they're done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state, the last price you paid for a bad watermelon, or the old method your grandfather used in the comments. I read every single one, and your answers decide what we cover next. Next week, I'm going to show you what a 1946 Penn State document reveals about keeping summer food cold without constant power. The technique uses nothing but wet burlap, shade, and moving air. And the report from 1946 that proves agricultural authorities knew about it generations before selling you the electric version, you're not going to want to miss that one.